Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Hello. Welcome to Sidewalk Talk. It is the third episode of this dynamic series. Multiple episodes. We don't know how many yet, but this is the third one, family. And so, welcome to Sidewalk Talk. Sidewalk Talk is an online platform to have real talk about the streets of Newark, New Jersey. We want to gain insight. We want to clarify misconceptions. We want to get a call to action, all directly from frontline workers in Newark, New Jersey. So I am your host, Aaliyah Berry. Good evening. Good evening. So some of you may not know me. So I want to take this opportunity to introduce myself. So I'm a licensed social worker here in Newark, and I have 20 years experience working with ages 0 to 60 in a variety of settings, right? So I have been in daycares and schools and after school programs, summer camps, group homes, shelters, correctional facilities, working in a variety of settings with a variety of different kinds of people. And so I'm a community-based social worker. And so what that means to me is the fact that this social work, right, is not necessarily only found within the four walls of an agency. While still maintaining professional boundaries, of course, right? But a lot of times this work is not found within the four walls of an agency. And so community-based to me, I find myself in baby showers and graduations, but also in sentencing hearings and funerals, goal setting on the sidewalk, which is what we're going to talk about tonight, and getting, hugs at red lights, right? And so that is community-based to me. I currently work as a consultant with Seeds and Berries, LLC. I do program design, training, and direct clinical services in schools, nonprofits, and government facilities. So you can follow Seeds and Berries on Facebook and Instagram. You can follow me on LinkedIn. On Seeds and Berries YouTube channel, you can find this whole series. So if you're missing this live today, you'll be able to find this particular episode on YouTube as well as our other two Sidewalk Talk episodes. And then you can also learn more about my services at seedsandberries.com. So that's enough about me, right? What is Sidewalk Talk? And what is like the real point? Like, what are the goals that we are trying to accomplish tonight? So there are three different goals that we're trying to accomplish with this particular online platform, right? So number one, for those of you who do follow my work, so I a lot of times serve individuals in the community who are either misunderstood or go unheard, right? And so sometimes, groups of people and individuals in the community, when they're not heard or they're misunderstood, they're often rejected and demonized by the community at large. And so what ends up happening with these judgments and assumptions and things like that about these groups is the groups then become alienated and disconnected from the community at large. And so then when they, as I have said before, burn down the village to feel its warmth, then that's an issue, right? And then that's cyclical in nature because then the village further pushes them away for the burning, right? And so it's important that we begin to see each other. It's important that we begin to connect and unify in a way that we see each other and we see each other's truth and seek to understand. So Sidewalk Talk clarifies misconceptions about, groups that experience this. Number two is a platform for providers to be able to validate each other. Right? I kind of halfway made this show for me, to be honest, right? Because a lot of times we're out here in these streets doing this work, and it's sometimes rough out here. It can be traumatizing. It can be depressing. It can be thrilling. It can be rewarding and satisfying. But sometimes as providers, we need an opportunity to validate each other in a way that, we can understand kind of and relate to the things that we're seeing in the community. So the third goal, very important goal that Sidewalk Talk is seeking to accomplish tonight is to lift up local organizations who are doing the work, right? Who are doing the work and, here on the front lines. And for us to lift up those organizations and hear about the work that they're doing, because the mighty, mighty Newark, New Jersey is doing awesome, awesome, powerful work. If you're not familiar, I need you to get familiar, right? But also to allow these local organizations and providers to help me tell the truths, right? Because certain truths need to be told and highlighted. Certain conversations need to be had that aren't being had, conversations that are not happening, right? And so calling the best of the best, cream of the crop onto this platform to be able to discuss these things, real talk. Real talk. Not all the talk is comfortable, but at least it's real, right? And so we also want to call to action by these providers. So yeah, we're talking about it, but now what do I do? What do I do about it? Right? Okay, Aaliyah, you're saying this, you're saying that, but now what do I do? Well, we want to call to action, because the fact is, there's a lot of emails and meetings happening, right, family? And so we need to move. We need to move. It's time for action. And emails and meetings are important. Don't get me wrong. However, action needs to take place as well. So we want to call to action by these providers who know best to give us our marching orders. Okay, so that is the point of Sidewalk Talk. That is what we are here to do tonight. Now, a little bit of housekeeping before I get into tonight's topic. Everybody ready? Okay, housekeeping. So, number one is like, tag, and share. Like, tag, and share this broadcast. Like it to show us love, right? Me and my guests, to show us support, and, liking it and loving it helps encourage us as we go forth, right? Tag individuals that you think would enjoy this particular conversation. So you can tag them right in the comments, and then a notification will come up on their end for people that would enjoy this particular conversation. Tag them, tag people in, right? And the last thing is to share. So share this broadcast, because we are discussing important topics, and we want the impact to be far and wide. We want the message to be able to go to the places where it needs to go for the betterment of the community, and not just the Newark community, by the way. We have out-of-state people that tune in, and we're moving, right? There's a lot of similarities between Newark and other places, that this is still relevant to places outside of Newark, New Jersey as well. So that's housekeeping number one, is to like, tag, and share for impact, right? Show your support that way. And the second thing is comment, right? Because if you are tuning into this broadcast live, then you have a special seat at the table, right? You have a special seat at this conversation, and you can add to the conversation. You can put in comments. You can show your agreement or disagreement, right? We're fine, right? But you can ask certain questions. We may not get to all the questions because we have questions set up, but it can add value to this experience. Your comments add value to this experience. So definitely please do comment and show my guests and I, that you're engaged with us in this conversation. Okay. So what is our topic on tonight? What is our topic on this third episode of Sidewalk Talk? So the topic is goal setting on the block. Goal setting on the block. Part one. Now, if you saw the flyer, you saw that it was part one. So part one, this perspective is coming from a provider, AKA a street mother, but technically she's a provider and a reputable leader in the city of Newark. So she is part one from the adult perspective. Part two is from a young person's perspective. Right? How do they want to engage in goal setting? And so that is part two later on in 2 weeks. But tonight, just to set off goal setting, because it's January, right? Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. It's January, so it's time to goal set. I'm goal setting. You're goal setting, right? But how are we goal setting in the street? How are we goal setting with those that we are serving outside and even in our own homes? Because a lot of this that we're going to talk about tonight, okay, I'm watching this, but I'm not really out on the sidewalk. I got you. You may not be actually out on the sidewalk goal setting like me and my guests. However, right? There are lots of people around you who need support in goal setting, period. So not just on the block per se, all right? But the fact is how do you goal set with individuals who might not even know what goal setting is? They might know what a goal is, but they might not know how to goal set, right? How do you tell, or I mean, how do you guide someone without telling them this is what you need to do? If your goal is not this, then you must not be motivated, right? It should definitely be this. You don't see your life, you don't see your circumstances. Well, of course your goal is this. Oh, it's not? Oh, see, you're not serious about goal setting. Talk to me when you're serious, right? Yes. Or like, I'm trying to give you advice as an adult and you're just not taking my advice. So, it's just, you don't listen. You don't listen. You should listen. I have wisdom, right? How do you hold accountable? How do you hold somebody accountable for goals? So now they're not really moving at the pace that you think they should be moving. Right? How do you hold them accountable, but with love and not push them away to the point that you push them away and off a cliff, right? So how do we do this? Because goal setting is a very nuanced process and dynamic and gesture of support. So everyone can help someone goal set. Today we're talking about maybe groups that is difficult to goal set with, and how do we really kind of master this nuance. So that is the topic for tonight, is goal setting on the block, part 1, right? So the guest that I have here tonight to be able to do this awesome, have this awesome conversation. So her name is Marsha Armstrong. And she is a reputable leader in the city of Newark, the great, great city of Newark. And she is the youth program director of the Newark Youth One Stop, right? And so the One Stop offers a variety of services: employment, vocational training, GED, which is now called high school equivalency diploma. Shameless plug. Let's call it high school equivalency, right? Rather than GED. I'm just saying, because as we're going to go, let me just say this, that as we begin to goal set with individuals, language also matters. So, don't you need to get your GED? GED, that means I'm a quitter. Because that's what that word means and carries stigma in the community. So folks that work in this field where we're getting diplomas, is the high school equivalency diploma. It says high school diploma on the paper. It says state of New Jersey on the top instead of a school. Okay? Shameless plug. In case there's someone in your life who needs to pursue their diploma. Let's call it a high school equivalency diploma. So language matters. But anyway, the One Stop offers this. And so she is the director over there. And Marsha Armstrong is a servant leader for real. She is a servant leader for real. And when it comes to, serving the community, she does this wherever her feet tread. Okay? Wherever her feet tread. So she is goal setting with the young girl next to her in the nail shop. She is goal setting with the cashier in Burger King. I don't know if that's what her post was about, but where if she's getting her food and it's a young person right there, she is goal setting. She is pulling over her car, right? And goal setting with the one at the red light. Okay? Marsha Armstrong is really out here doing Sidewalk Talk. And so she is the perfect person to be able to have this conversation with. So without any further ado, we are going to welcome Miss Armstrong. Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. So Happy New Year. And we are here, you already know, to discuss goal setting. And you really are the perfect person, as I said. And just a little bit for the audience to be able to better understand. So when I say the nail shop, I meant that. right?
Right.
Right, because then she's getting into the conversation, about housing and about your social security card and about, we're not going to go into too much detail, but like, and about your family situation and what are your circumstances and what is your mindset. And Miss Armstrong is doing all of that in the nail shop, right? And then not only has that conversation right there, but then continues to mentor thereafter, right? So sometimes the conversation, I mean, most of the time, doesn't stop there if you're kind of leading them through a process. So welcome, Miss Armstrong. You are super worthy of this platform. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Whew. So I'm honored to be here, of course, because it's an honor to serve, and more importantly, to serve our young people. So yeah, feel
Yes.
free to
Yes.
ask away.
All right. So we're going to start by just kind of tell us about yourself and your professional experience so that the audience can like better understand your lens and where you're coming from.
So, of course, my name is Marsha Armstrong. I've been doing just service with young people 14 to 24 a little bit over 6 years. Shout out to Mayor Baraka for giving me an opportunity, just seeing in me my desire to love and serve the people in a way that is really impactful. But I've always worked with young people. I've always worked with little people from the time I was 14, I worked in a child care center, and I always saw an opportunity to just love and um, pour into people. And so that's always what I wanted to do in my life, is pour into people. So because I've been given the opportunity to serve, I will continue to do that. Professionally, I have MPA from Rutgers University, Newark. Shout out to Rutgers. But that speaks nothing of who I am outside of just two letters behind my name.
Absolutely. Because then there's like the letters and then there's the office one, right?
Mhm.
And then there's, as I referenced earlier, like when I say street mother, right? It's the community based piece. I mean, yeah, that's like, slang, but like the street mother is the community based frontline worker that this is not a 9 to 5, right? Like there's the clock and then there's God's clock, still with boundaries, of
All
course.
night,
Yes,
all night,
absolutely.
all night, all burning,
All night.
all night.
Yes.
Right?
And
Just
so
no more email. Call me, right? Not
absolutely.
on my work phone, on the real phone. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To be able to meet the need, right? And the need does not necessarily only occur 9 to 5 when you're doing this work for real, right? So we appreciate you. So we're going to get started kind of into the topic of tonight, like goal setting on the block. Now, as I kind of said in the introduction, like it could be goal setting in the home, got you, right? If some of the audience members are like, well, I'm not out on the block, that's fine, right? But a lot of this conversation is still going to be relevant to goal setting with your own children, goal setting with your neighbor, goal setting with that youth in church or in the masjid, right? Like goal setting with anyone that's around you and supporting them in that. But if it's like goal setting on the block, what does that mean to you? And what does it look like?
It looks like anything you can imagine, right? Like you said, the nail shop. Here we are. I'm having me time, and I hear the need on the right, and then I hear the bashing of like everyone that didn't help. So it's really important to me that now we find someone that can help, and it may not be me, but let's at least start the conversation. So it can happen anywhere. I feel like it happens in the line at Shoprite. It happens. It happens on a second gig that I have, right? Like I'm sitting there and I see this young man getting his life all mixed up because right, like you think you own this. No, you gotta to own, you gotta start somewhere. And so I just believe that no matter where we are, we gotta have our ears to the ground and we always have to be listening. We always have to look for opportunity. I think we look for opportunities to make ourselves win, but we always have to be looking for opportunity to help everyone else around us win too.
Absolutely. And I hear you, just the fact that like to look around you, right? To be aware of our surroundings is an important piece of it. And lots of us could hear the need to the right in the nail shop, but the piece about like, oh, that's not my business though. right? Like, oh, that's not my like I don't want to lean into her conversation, or like I don't want her to be offended, or like I don't want my neighbor to be offended if I try to goal set with her son, right? Like, let me just mind my business. Let me just mind my business. We need to have a whole sidewalk talk just about
Right.
let me mind my business. Right? So like quickly, like, because it's not an official question, but like the follow-up question is like, what drives you to mind everyone's business?
I mean, so the village, right? Like I think about when we lost the village, we lost our people. Like that's it. We always had a village. We always had a village behind us. I think about myself. I could have been a victim of any circumstance because I mean, we all make bad decisions, right? So sometimes you do have to be willing to be uncomfortable to get that person comfortable enough to talk to you. Yeah, I'm okay with if you tell me to mind my business. I'm okay with that. But at least you're going to remember that that woman cared enough about me to ask me a little bit more about my situation. And 9 times out of 10, when they see that someone doesn't see them in the light that maybe others didn't, they may that's when they open up because everyone else has spent time pushing you down for whatever situation they may be in. So now that you're like, oh, I really care about that. How can I assist you? Then it changes. And I think the conversation starts to open up a little bit more. And then we change from bashing to starting to figure out what the solution is.
Absolutely. Because the how can I assist you, right? Like, I'm not here to like get in your conversation and then judge the conversation I just heard. It's how can I assist you? But I also hear an element in your interaction that says courage, right? Like in your head, you're like, yeah, they could tell me mind my business, right?
What's up?
They could. Like, but I'm gonna hop out anyway, right? I'm gonna pull up anyway. Like, but I could be told mind my business, but the courage to remain and commit to village flow and swag, right? To commit to the village is the courage that you kind of got to remember. I'm also going to say this real quick as I'm kind of reaching the comments, and if anyone's tuning in right now. So, real quick housekeeping is do comment, right? Do like, tag, and share this particular conversation, but also do comment because I'm seeing a lot of different comments in here. Like, people are agreeing with I'm my brother's and sister's keeper, and like, so we appreciate your comments, and definitely do comment. If you are feeling like you don't have access to this, make sure you click on the actual live broadcast that is on Seeds and Berries Facebook page. So click on the live broadcast, and that should allow you to comment. Okay, I just wanted to kind of clarify that. So let's say we're breaking down goal setting in itself, right? Like goals on the block, we kind of, as we talked before, we kind of like broke it down into 3 different phases. So if I'm going to, let's say, so I see a need, I'm minding that business, right? I'm minding that business. I'm taking the courage to push through. And again, this is somebody in the nail shop, but this could also be your 19-year-old son who lives upstairs, right? Okay, so I'm just trying to put this in perspective. So I push through. I ask, how can I assist you? And that is kind of where the conversation starts. So let's say we're setting is step number 1. Support is step number 2. And then complete is step number 3, right? So talk to us about the first step. Like, so then you push through with the courage to say, how can I assist you? How do you bring that conversation into setting goals?
So the first thing I would think about and remind the person I'm talking, it's not about me. Like I'm out the way now. This is your stuff. This is you. We're going to talk about you. And if there's anything that I can assist with beyond, right now, then I'll be doing that. But right now, let's talk about you. And so I think that's where it starts. Like helping the person. We're like, my ego is not about to take this over because we get into conversations, especially with young people. We start to tell them about what we've been through and how I did it just like that, and they don't want to hear none of that.
Facts.
I mean, like to be honest,
Facts.
like because the me too, me too, me too, me too, like everything they tell you, it was me too, and they don't that like they're past that. Now we got to bring it to a place where we got to figure out exactly what it is you need to commit to and how we're going to get you to commit to that. Right? We got to do some. I see Aaron saying listening ears. Yeah, we got to be like real listening ears, active listeners. So we got to be listening, taking notes with no pen, right? Holding the back of my head, like, all right, let me just get your number.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
move to that because now everything is not being discussed in that moment. So I think like I said, just opening your ears, helping them realize your ego is about to move out the way. They're about to take this situation over and give them a little bit of control. Like, I always say, like,
Mm.
one thing you don't want to do is make somebody feel like you're controlling their life. Let them drive.
Mhm.
It's okay if they never drove before. We in the class, we learning. Okay, no, make the
Yeah.
order. You can go to the car, right? We got to be some. We were learning how to drive first at 15 and 16. We were in the driver's seat. Nobody just gave us something, was like, oh, just, so be a little bumpers and try to guide them and stuff, but give them control. Allow them to drive,
Mhm.
bump into
Mhm.
something a little bit, dent your car, but this ain't your brand new Tesla. So it's okay.
Mm.
Then from 99, it's okay. You don't do that. So I mean that's how I roll. I'm like, all right, you gonna go ahead and drive.
Right, right. But what you said, which we really have to, again, real talk, right? Some of these conversations, if the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, then let it fly, right? If it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it, which is, it has to, and you just brought it up, but like it has to be addressed, which is adultism, right? And that has come up on a couple different that has come up on a couple different sidewalk talks is about adultism and the ego of the provider. That's deep, Marsha, because the ego of the provider will have you talking at a young person's, and not even just a young person, but a 45-year-old, right, man who's goal setting for the first time, right? It doesn't have to be young, but somebody's talking at you for 45 minutes and like, but that is your ego that's driving that. But then the part about, the car analogy, because that is so important that like they're in the driver's seat. You are in the passenger seat. They're in the driver's seat. You're in the passenger seat. And yes, I have hit walls. Now I know you have, Marsha. I know you have,
Really,
right? Because
really.
right, because like, oh, look out for that. Oh, look out for this. Oh, we trying to get there. Cool. Like, here's a map. We could go around the wall. Yeah, because you're going 100 miles per hour towards that wall right there. Oh, that one right
Right.
there. And we're in the passenger seat. Like, excuse me, excuse me, the wall, right? But at the same time, we've hit the wall, and we're going to talk about that a little later, which is like, what do you do when you hit the wall in the passenger seat, right?
Mhm.
So we also can't assume people haven't already goal set or interacted with systems. So failed systems in someone's life, right? So let's say somebody, and I'll just mention some systems and you can put it together, but for example, has been formerly incarcerated, right? Has been involved with DCPMP, formerly known as DIFUS, JJC, right? CMOs and Perform Care, the One Stop, right? Before you got there, beautiful, right? Or whoever, like a lot of these organizations have gone through different leadership and like, oh, I had an experience 12 years ago, whatever. How do failed systems affect goal setting when you are then engaging in that?
So you have to go into it with honesty, right? Like you have to help people understand that you understand that there is some bureaucracy within some of our systems, all of our, like there was, I can't think of any system that was truly created to make us as a people win, black and brown,
Mm,
period.
mm,
And I'm going to acknowledge that and I say
mm-hmm,
it,
mm-hmm.
have the conversation because
Yes.
when it comes to people, I was supposed to get rehabilitated when I was and it didn't work, right? Because that was not truly designed with
With
you at the
that.
core.
Right, right.
But here I am human, understanding you human, and I am designed to love and care about you at the core.
Mm-hmm.
And all that stuff that you went through, yes, these are going to be there are going to be some challenges. Like I don't walk into any conversation, I'm gonna get you a job, girl. Like I'm never doing that.
Mm,
Oh, you're gonna start school tomorrow. Like I'm never doing it. I'm gonna
mm-hmm,
say we're working to that because we walk into these things promising people and we become another failed system.
mm, mm,
Because I know there are some barriers that exist, and I don't call them barriers. I just call them small obstacles because barriers sound too big to me. Like we
mm,
just like we have a
mm.
few small obstacles we want to deal with,
Right.
and we'll keep navigating those obstacles, right? Because
Mm-hmm,
obstacles can be navigated. You can move them out. You take a spoon if you got peas in your soup. You know, like you can take that spoon and throw it out. So that's exactly how we talk about it. Okay, I know there's small obstacles that we need to get through, and when we get through and around them, we're going to get to this ultimate goal, which may be a job, whatever your goals are, we'll get there.
Absolutely.
And so I think we have to be very, very keen on delivering the message that we know that things exist that stop them and not keep blaming them. Oh yeah, well, it's your fault because you ain't show up to that appointment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always their fault. What about
Facts.
if let's be honest. What if they're in a shelter and the shelter doesn't let them out until 8:30, but we made them an appointment at 8 o'clock? Are we being realistic?
Mm. Mm.
System, we just created another obstacle. Or
Mm.
they need to be home by 9, but we give them a job that ends at 10:30. But then they can't get back to where they need to be because now they're going to get kicked out. Like there's so many things that we sometimes do that become a problem, and then we blame it on them.
Right. And so that right there, like setting up goals that aren't aligned to their actual life, to me, that sounds like a provider made that goal.
Because we were driving, we
Yeah,
drove.
exactly. Because if they had been in the driver's seat, they would have been like, excuse me, the shelter won't let me out till 8:30.
Yeah. And
Right?
sometimes we hear that, but we don't ego gets in the way and we're like, no, but I want you here at 8:30. No, I want you here at 8 o'clock. But I don't get out till 8:30, but I want you here at 8 o'clock. So what do you want them to do? Jump out the window? Like,
Right.
I mean, we gotta be
Right.
realistic.
And then that leads me to kind of the piece about like then misinterpreting that. And I see one of the comments says that's a setup. Exactly. So then, like you said, you're actually the goal setter or supporter of the goal setting, and you're creating barriers and obstacles, right? Just essentially because of your ego.
Yep.
But then when they don't show up, right? And this example, that's a great example. Like, I want you there at 8 o'clock. The shelter won't let them out till 8:30, as an example, right? So when they don't show up, it gets interpreted as unmotivated. See? Unmotivated. You're not going hard. You're not ready. I knew you weren't ready. I knew that. So talk to us a little bit about like looking at a person and calling them unmotivated. And I said this in the prior episode, like a head down in a math class doesn't always mean unmotivated. Right? Like, but we interpret it as or non-compliant. You're being defiant. So, like, talk to us a little bit about lack of motivation and how that looks in the goal setting, and it's not really that at all.
So I never really use that lack of motivation thing because, to be honest, I really don't know what it is. And sometimes you're not ready to discuss with me like, you got to trust me. You got to trust me. Like, and I think people forget that. In order to get somebody to a place of really setting a tangible goal, they got to get to the place of like, I really trust you a little bit. So they want to see that you're listening. When they walk in and tell me, oh, well, Marsha, I know I was supposed to be here at 8, but I did not get here till 9:30 because the shelter let me out. Oh, you know what? You're right. You probably did say that. And I missed it because I wasn't listening. So own
Right.
in my stuff. Now I'm
Right.
on my stuff. Now you're better going to trust me next week to tell me your stuff that's going to get me in a place to get you to own your stuff when you mess it up.
Absolutely. And that's humility.
So
Like,
that's it.
humble
Integrity.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, if I said that to you and you didn't hear me, and then I have to say it to you again next week, yeah, you probably did say that, and that's my bad, right? Because then that
Yeah.
further solidifies the trust between the client, the person, whoever, and the provider in this case. So now we're kind of into the support phase, right? So the setting it, I hear you say humble yourself. I hear you say get through your courage to mind somebody else's business, right? To commit to the village. And so now we're into the support phase. So you kind of already said this, but it's like you said the turn off, because then it's like you as a support system can turn off individuals off of this whole process to begin with. I guess like kind of talk about that, but then also like, okay, right? The shelter lets you out at 8:30. You said that. I heard you say that. I wrote it down, right? I made the interview for what time would you like it to be?
That
Right?
part right
Now
there.
they say, okay, well, Miss Berry, I really am not a morning person. Fine, cool. Glad you know your limitations. I'm not either, right? Okay, so I'm not really a morning person. Can I have it at 2 o'clock? Sure, 2 o'clock it is. They don't show, Marsha. How do you hold accountable with love and
So
not
I'm gonna
turn
bring to
off? It's like a fine balance. Go ahead.
I'm gonna bring to the top next. Supporting is the hardest phase. That is like the first, the one, the two, like that's easy breezy. That support piece is tough because that's when you want to start telling.
Mm.
That's really when the telling comes. Like
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
you can just have me sitting here all day. Like you want to get into that person. Like I was sitting here since 10 o'clock waiting for you at 2 o'clock. Like like these kind of things. So the reality is that one, you have to help them own it. Right? If you can own it, I can own it. If you can tell me that what happened today, like when I call you and you miss an appointment, I am gonna call, what happened today? And I need to know that you remembered that you had an appointment with me.
And what
Because
happened?
yeah, like what happened
Mm-hmm.
today?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, to be honest, they don't remember that they have an appointment with you. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because life happens.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody isn't on the calendar like us. If I did not have my calendar, Outlook saved my life. Because if I didn't have
Facts.
Outlook,
And how many
another
Google
day,
Calendar
right.
tutorials have we done? How many
And
calendar tutorials?
I got a 9, an 11, a 1:30, a 4 o'clock.
Right.
That's not going to be in my like things to remember. So if you have to deal with your screaming son, your mom telling you to get off the couch, all this stuff going on, you think you can automatically just remember me at 2 o'clock if it doesn't pop up? So I need to call and say, hey, what happened today? Because now you understand I'm human. I love you enough to figure out what happened. And now we got to talk through this. Okay. So they never bring up the 2 o'clock appointment. I said, well, what happened today at 2 o'clock? Oh,
Oh, right.
and like, I'm so I'm sorry. Like, we get into all of that. Okay, well, do you have some time now? Because maybe we can accomplish it over the phone. Do you have some time now? Are you in a quiet place? Do you have your notebook? Like, can we, or should I wait till tomorrow? Because now I want you. It's always questions. Like, I always ask questions. They're never exclamation points. It's always like, can you, if it is possible, can we, like, do you mind if I'm allowing you to tell me that it's okay. So I think like if we do that, then supporting becomes easy because now we open the door for somebody to like kind of peek your head in a little bit, and then maybe they'll push the door, and then eventually it's wide open.
Right. Right. And so I also like just I mean, that whole, a lot of that answer, what is rooted in that answer is to fully understand the person that you are supporting. Because like it's easy to just pull out a goal document, right? We all have them. Schools, nonprofits, we all have a goal, the halfway house. Everywhere has a goal document. And so if you're doing goal setting in the office, okay, pull out the goal setting document, your short term, long term, blah, blah, objectives. First of all, even
Ridiculous.
the language in itself, this goes back to the setting up piece, but like a short term goal, and I've done this in my former setting, which is like a short term goal can be a week. It can
It could
be
be
30
15
days.
minutes.
It can be 15 minutes.
I mean,
Facts.
realistically, 15. I need you to commit to me for 15 minutes and put that
Oh,
short
facts.
goal.
Yes. By the end of the day, it's the short term goal. No, that's facts. That's facts. But and so then it's like sometimes even agencies like make the timeline what it should be, even when it's not appropriate for the person that you're serving. And so it's important the short term, long term that we come up with the timelines that are appropriate. But just sitting and completing that document, right, does not consider that person's whole other life. And it's not to say you got to get into detail about like when they were 6 years old with like whatever. But like you said, like I didn't show because my child, my parent, my housing, my bus tickets, like my tons of stuff that goes on in a person's life that could, but like you said, not lack of motivation. So the how you hold accountable is I see leave your feelings at home. Absolutely.
I start with grace and love, like
Yeah.
that. Look, I don't care what religion you are. The two things that will always resonate is grace and love. Like if I don't give you grace, I mean, and I'm not saying I'm gonna allow you to just do whatever you want, but I gotta give you a little bit of grace. And I do have to show you that you are human because remember that some people have already been through enough stuff that's already tore them up. So you could be the last person they want to interact with. This
Mm-hmm.
could be their decision. And I always look at it as life or death, right? Like you could be the last person. If I don't make it today, I'm done. Like this is I'm that bridge on 78, I'm jumping off today. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I try to deal with every single person that I come in contact with. I don't want me to be the last person that you think of to get you off that bridge, literally off the bridge,
Literally.
literally, because it
Marsha.
has adults all off the bridge. And then another thing we have to stop
Mm.
doing, not only the goal document, these benchmarks. Like I know most of us
Mm.
are funded, and we're like so stuck on these benchmarks and so stuck on it. I think that we forget that there's also notes that we can put in.
Mm.
Like, and I promise you, my first bout with like public service on a whole nother level was with the city of Newark, and I was right under Nina Bay. Let me tell you something. If it wasn't for her, I might have been a mess.
Shout out to
I
our first guest who is commenting away on here right now.
it's just
Cause
like
yes.
she taught you how to like recognize the benchmarks, but put the human in line with the benchmark,
Mm.
right? So
Yes.
like you got to take the human because
Yes.
benchmark words black and white, and then you have to acknowledge. So she note the system, make it look, let it tell a story, and then if you can make that system tell a story, then you just made your case for the human that you want to exit so quick. I gotta hurry up and exit them out. No, you don't. Because do you exit a life? Did you just out their candle? No, you don't do that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I believe that you have to get very, very clear about these goal documents and these benchmarks. Like make them work for the client that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so like for benchmarks, I mean that is the and this isn't necessarily in folks' homes, so the home people just hold on
Yeah.
1 second, right? But like more speaking to formal providers that are in agencies, the benchmarks is what causes us to want to jump in the driver's seat. Okay?
You
Because
crash
I
every
don't have time for this. Like, I don't have time for you to miss this interview. I don't have time for you to miss this resume. I was supposed to do the resume 3 weeks ago and put it in your file. I don't have time for you to not answer the phone. I don't have time to hit you up on Facebook and wait for or Instagram DM and wait for
I'm
you to
coming
see.
to your house. Hey, like
Well, that's what you're doing, Marsha.
I mean,
Hey, remember that resume? We was
I mean, like I'm popping up. We're gonna have fun. The baby's gonna be playing in the kitchen set, and we're gonna be writing your resume. Like I'm cool with
Marsha.
that. Now I can't do it with COVID-19. Sorry,
Okay,
but
facts.
we could Zoom. We could Zoom, like download this app. But in the past, like okay, you can't get to my office. I'm coming to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that, right. And that is the thing that, again, like, of course, within professional boundaries. So I don't want any even new providers, right? Because me and
Right.
you have skin in the game, right? Like, me and you have skin in the game. And so we know how far to go. That's further than the agency, but not so far that we're breaking any actual laws or rules and ethics, right? But being able to go above and beyond. And what I hear you saying is flexibility. Flexibility. Like, if this is your goal and you have these mini obstacles, as you call them, and we discuss those mini obstacles, is what you said during the setting process. Let's
Right.
talk about
Right.
these mini obstacles in advance. And I'm not trying to depress you by talking about what could get in the way. I'm not trying to depress you, but I always tell clients, like, I'm not trying to make you sad talking about why you couldn't do this goal, but I want you to see them coming. So when that, and I do use barrier, but I'm going to start using mini obstacle. I'm learning from you, Marsha. So when I see that mini obstacle coming, I can say, oh, I seen you coming from a,
Right.
right? And you can avoid it because me and Miss Berry already talked about this. But like you said, if you already know what the obstacles are, I'm here at your house because we're doing the resume minus COVID to get the
Especially
goal
if you
done.
want it. Like you're not doing this for everybody. Like we're not saying every person that that comes in that's not showing up for their resume, you just thrown to their house. No,
Facts.
there are some people that
Tell
truly
us how you could tell.
so discernment is big. You gotta have your glasses on, like not your rose-colored glasses, your real glasses. You gotta have them on. You gotta be. If you see this person, sometimes they consistently show up, and all of a sudden things are happening, or they're reaching out to you before it happened. I expected to have a babysitter. I didn't. You know, my mom's giving me help today, and all of this is real for our young people, for anybody.
Right.
I was supposed to get out on my furlough. I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Can we call the counselor, ask the counselor at the jail to meet them in the room so that you can have a conversation with them on the phone? Like these are some of the things that we can do that we don't do, right? But I'm not saying to jump and do it for everybody because you cannot do it for everyone. Sometimes their situation doesn't allow it, and your spirit of discernment tells you don't do it. But find common ground. Can we meet at the park? And
Right.
you
Right.
know, can
Right.
we wait for what can we do? But I will say continue to use, but lead with love and grace and use discernment.
Right. And so, like, discernment, because again, if new providers are in this audience, right? Like, I don't know, like, and discernment, for other lay members, like, lay language would be follow your gut, right?
Yeah,
But I would also say for new providers or people that have never really done goal setting or you're trying to learn about goal setting, seek supervision. Okay.
that helps.
Okay. Seek supervision because even by another support system, like if you're trying to goal set with your 19-year-old son who lives upstairs, and going above and beyond, or am I setting a boundary? Am I going above and beyond, or am I setting a boundary? Like which one? Call your girlfriend.
Right on
Girl,
my
he
resume.
did not do his resume. I have talked about his resume for 3 weeks. What should I do? Like seek supervision? You seek support about whether to go left or right because maybe our gut says one thing, and like you said, those rose-colored glasses, Marsha. Then the bleeding heart on the sleeve, whatever you want to call it,
You want to go
is
through
like,
interview
oh, just
form.
an 18th chance. Like, right. So that is a good segue to kind of the final piece is like, okay, the 18th chance, right? Now we've set the goals. We understand their whole life. We've been in the kitchen. The baby is playing with the coloring book, right? We have gone above and beyond. We have really put our best foot forward as supporters and the passenger seat drivers, right? Not drivers, but passengers in the car. Okay, they're not moving. These are the goals they said were super important. You have been supporting, like we've already been talking about in this conversation, and it's not moving. So, like, what is, and you mentioned Amina Bay, earlier saying like we're not exiting a human. So like this part is real talk for providers and the mother in the home with the 19-year-old upstairs because like if he doesn't do these goals, like are we kicking him out next week? Like I don't know.
Yeah,
Sometimes it could get like that. Like I need you to get a job. You're grown, and I need you to get a job. And if you can't, I need you to. I mean, we've heard all types of reasons why
right.
kids get put out, right? But talk to me about successful versus unsuccessful exits.
So another thing I don't use exit and I don't use successful. I call it a big pause. Like we are on pause right now, right? So there's a certain length of time that like for us it's 18 months. 14 to 20, you got to stay in contact with the patient. Once you go to the medical system, got to be for 18 months. Like to be very honest, it's you need 18 years. You got to undo everything that's been
Yeah,
done,
yeah,
and you have to prove yourself. So one of the things that we are bound by is like this 30-day follow-up. I do not believe in 30-day follow-ups. I tell my staff all the time, every week you better get on the phone. I want to get on the phone with these young people. And I'm like, oh, if I see someone not I'm looking at the notes, wait a minute, something ain't right. I'm going to jump on the phone myself. But the counselors that I have, I love it because they're following up every week. I gotta go to their house. Something ain't right. They're not answering the phone. I'm like, no, 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 no. I got it. I already spoke to the mom. Like these are things you have to do. But it's not an exit. It's a pause. For a moment, this goal that they thought that they may be able to meet got sidelined, but something else has come up. So that goal may have changed, and they might be working on something else. Now it's not the job. It's the fact that they may be pregnant. And so they got to deal with all these other things they need to get to deal with the pregnancy, or their mom actually really put them out, so now they're homeless. So how are you gonna go to work if you ain't got nowhere to live or eat?
yeah, yeah. So I hear you saying like just continuing to reassess the goals. Because especially, I mean, when we talk, I mean, the goal, the topic today was on the block. on the block, right? And in the community, like sometimes those that we serve, like the goals do really change. And like depending on what variables are at play, dictate the goals. And then it's like, again, back to going in the driver's seat, right? Well, this was your goal that's on my document.
Right. And
This
then
is
you
the
take
document that was in the file. This is the goal I put in the system, right? This is the goal I reported to my supervisor, and you are non-compliant. And I'm using those kinds of words because I've 20 years experience in agencies, right? Like I've seen
you
this. I've
do.
seen this in schools and nonprofits and government facilities where it's the non-compliance piece. And like you said earlier, that is a huge turnoff. Like they'll never come back to your office again if you built the rapport as we've described over the last 45 minutes, like you're building the rapport and the trust and leading with grace and leading with love. And then, well, we can't change the goals because this is the goals I already reported that you're working on. But like you said,
And then
their
it's like,
lives change so much.
and then what about the goals that you discuss outside of the office? Because sometimes like you're in this four walls. Like I have a particular counselor in my office. He will listen. Middle of the night, client knocking on his door, take this gun. Because if you don't take this gun from me, I'm gonna do something crazy. Trust, right? He is zooted up. Like this kid is zooted up. Would have forgot that he did that and would have been sitting in jail. But I'm grateful that we
Zooted out
stand
as in on drugs, right, Marsha?
all
For
the
the
way.
people that's not in the street.
Yes,
So
right.
this young
And so
person's on drugs and goes by your counselor's house to give a
knock
what
on the middle of
knock.
the night, not 4 in the afternoon, like more like 4 in the morning, knock on the door. Here, you got to take this because I'm going to do something. But if the example wasn't lead by love and grace, would that happen?
No.
They were talking goals a few weeks ago, but he fell off his goal because now he's high.
Yeah.
He got his hands on something, and it could have went a bunch of different ways. But I say that to say like we have got to get them to the place where they trust us, they believe in us, and then they understand that we are okay with changing the goal, not putting the other one off the list, but changing it to accommodate you because it's not about me and my benchmarks. It's about you and your life.
Yeah. 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 And so as the life changes, so there is though a time where it does get to big pause. So like
Yeah.
what is the threshold? Like when do you from your perspective, right? And sometimes by the way, this is the agency dictates to you when the big pause occurs. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that thing is out of our hands, right? Like sometimes I have no say in when the big pause occurs, and the agency may call it an exit, right? But and I have to document in such a way that it's on pause. It's out of my hands. Can they resurface and seek support? Sure, but it might be you got to do it at next semester. Like you could
Mm-hmm.
resurface, but you can't re-enroll until, or like whatever the setting is. So when do you get to the point, even from a personal, not necessarily your agency, but
Mm-hmm.
like a personal standpoint, when do you get to the place that like, look, I'm ready when you are, but you're not ready for what I have?
So a bunch of repeated offenses, we know. Like we just know when you know, I know, and so we're at a place where I literally say to you, "Are you ready for this? Or am I ready for it?"
Mm.
Because we gotta own it, right? Because I believe in integrity. Like I
Yes.
always say to them, "You bring integrity, I bring me. If you bring integrity, that's all I need from you, because you're gonna tell me what it really is, and I'm gonna bring me. And what do I have? You just don't know. I got a whole bag of tricks over here. So let me just
Right.
bring me. You bring integrity. That's it." And so, so that's really important, right? But I think there comes a time where you just see they continue to do the same thing. Like you see the pattern, you bring it to the top, and they're like, "Yeah, you're right." They're gonna tell you, "Yeah,
Right.
you're right. I wasn't for real. I was just, because
Your face. You're so
you know, I wasn't for real. I was just, and they use all kind of language.
Yes, that's why I was thinking different language in my head, Marsha,
Yes,
just now.
all kinds of language
Facts.
because they're comfortable and they trust you and they believe that you're going to help them. And so I'm very clear that we are going to be on pause for a little bit. I am here to support you. We have counselors here to support you. Anything you need, if you want to revisit that goal, we're here for you. You got to come serious.
And I'm
You
ready when
know,
you are. So it's
right?
not a
I'm
failed
ready.
system. It's also not. I also try to be careful with my language, with the pause language, because what I don't want to happen is for me to go down in history in your narrative that Miss Berry and the system she was attached to gave up on me.
Hmm.
Nah, that wasn't the case, bro. Like that wasn't
And
the
I think
case.
that we have to be limber too. We have to be
Yeah,
limber because, to
yeah,
be honest, like I think that there's not a single rule that tells us we have to stop after a certain time.
right, right.
I learned that again from like Amina. Like, yes, they recommend 18 months. They don't say after 18 months stop talking to that client. It's a
Right,
recommendation.
right, right.
So
Absolutely.
after,
Aftercare. That's a whole
yeah,
nother.
right,
Yes.
right. So now it's kids that we have dealt with from 14 and now they're about 35. Still talking about something, excuse me, is it possible that I could come back? Um,
Youth
there's a
one stop.
right.
35 year old.
I mean, and
But
shade, but
you,
it's like
but
we're
you
gonna
are
do
the
it.
support.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yep.
do it if we have to, right?
Yep.
You just turned 25 yesterday. I'm gonna find I'm gonna find a way to keep you,
Yep.
under because we understand. But at the same time, it it is what it is. The supports are here for you, but there is no law that is written that says after 18 months, after 18 days, after 18 years, you got to let them go. And we believe that because we read it and we internalize it that way. But until you find that grace and that love that says, look, I'm gonna do what I have to do because I know I gotta do it, you really don't have to exit nobody out. You don't exit humans.
Right. Absolutely. Within whatever boundaries are
Right,
dictated to you, right? Because there's certain
right,
things like as a licensed social worker I'm not allowed to do, but like
right.
I can be village within the confines of what the law tells me I can
Right,
do. But yeah,
right.
I have young people that I've known 10 years. And the setting that they were attached to allows me to keep in contact, right? Like, so, and every setting is different. Some settings, shelter, right? The shelter that I was at 7, 8 years, super, super strict, right? No phone number, no money, no in the car, the personal vehicle, no, definitely no social media, no at the house. That was totally out. But then other agencies I went to, it looked different. Like, no, we use social media as a
Right.
strategy here. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. And then I'm sliding in DMs. But like, definitely take the lead from
Respect
your
the rules.
agency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Respect the rules and get creative.
Yeah. And flexible, like you said earlier.
Mhm.
So, um, finally, I mean, we have a lot of call to action, and I'm going to summarize it. What do we do, right? We talked about goal setting, and this is what it kind of looks like. This is how you do it. This is the nuances of it, because it is not black and white. It's a very gray kind of thing. But we want to know, with the little bit of time we have, we want to know about 500 Broad Street, the Newark Youth One Stop. What is it that you guys do there? How do folks sign up or refer a young person? Tell us a little bit about your agency and what you guys do.
So the Newark Youth One Stop does everything you can imagine for young people. Just joking.
Your whole
But we
face
do.
lit up though.
Right.
That's your
So
team.
yes. So under Mayor Baraka's leadership, we truly we offer HSC. We do run the Summer Youth Employment Program that employs over 3,000 young people every single summer from 14 to 24. Again, we offer vocational training support. So if you're graduating high school, you know you're not ready to go to college, but you want to go into vocational trade, we have the dollars to pay for that. So don't go running around all nervous about how you're going to pay for it because we're here for that. And then we have a dynamic staff that will mentor you, support you, walk you through some of the things that you just don't know. And so just know that we're here for you. Like I said, whatever it is that you as a young person feel you need a place, not right now, not during COVID,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
and we have you in the office, but we are always available via phone or email to chat with us, um, to let us know some of your needs, any obstacles in your way. If we can help you navigate those, we most definitely will, or we'll refer you to someone that can. And again, just reach out and we're here for you.
Yeah, and so what I hear you like the goals, once a young person comes in to you or your staff, shout out to the 500 Broad Street staff, by the way, shout out to them. They come into you for vocational training, but once they sit down at the desk, you uncover, and you get into the bag of homelessness and trauma and, anger that will have you cursing out your vocational teacher or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case
Mm-hmm.
may be, like there, or the child care, or I need transportation. I mean, right? They may come in with a thing, but that's why you guys are so powerful and you're an asset to the community. And so if anyone in the audience does have young people 16 to 24, refer them, because the staff there are skilled practitioners, right? And so, oh, you're coming in with vocational training? Sure, come on in. But develop a relationship to then goal set on all that other stuff. So
Yep.
it's not just like go sign up for school. It's get the guidance and support that they need.
Yeah. If we
So
leave nobody out, because we'll hang out. There are many times that we have connections with the counselors at the high schools too. So if your student is feeling like you're not sure, anything you need, we're here.
yes. So we appreciate you, Marsha Armstrong. The chat was in total agreement. Lots of people just supporting what it is that you are sharing with us. And we appreciate the audience too, just by like adding to the conversation, and supporting what it is that we're talking about tonight. But a lot of times, frontline workers are not always appreciated out loud. And so I just want to take this opportunity to give you your flowers now, Miss Marsha. You are a sister to me for real. And I just, I personally appreciate the work you do. I feel like I met you way too late. I wish I would have met you way before we actually met, but as soon as we met, we have a lot in common and we serve in a very similar way. And so like I appreciate you. The streets appreciate you. I made this status several months ago, but like Marsha Armstrong is responsible for reducing violence in the
Oh,
community.
thank
She is a
you.
crime reduction tool in this here community. And so, because goal setting, and we may get into that in the next episode with the young person, because what does goal setting have to do with violence? It has a lot to
Mm.
do with whether I go left or right. So we appreciate you, and we appreciate your staff at the One Stop, and thank you for your time here tonight.
Thank you.
Yes. So have a good night.
You too.
All
See you,
right.
everyone.
Wow, family. Yay. That was a beautiful, beautiful conversation, and well qualified, right? So she is super, super skilled in what we're talking about, knows the ins and outs of the nuanced dynamic that is goal setting. So we appreciate Marsha Armstrong in this conversation tonight. So real quick, call to action, right? Real quick call to action. So the call to action is, one, mind everyone's business, right? This whole like mind my own business, yeah, we're past that, right? Courage. Have courage to then support those who you think may tell you mind your business, but they do need support. So press through. Once you already press through, then lead with grace and love. Be the passenger in the car, and seek to understand those that you are supporting, so that you understand the full picture and the fullness of that person, so that you can effectively support them. And then lead with grace and love, and sometimes, and seek supervision or a mentor, and be able to, continue to support them, or on pause and I'm ready when you are. And that's a boundary, family, that sometimes we do have to set. Sometimes we do have to pause with love, and I'm ready when you are. So, right here, though, if you, again, Sidewalk Talk, we want to lift up local organizations. So, if you know a young person who wants employment, vocational training, they pay for vocational training, right? They pay for vocational training, or GED, right? Then refer them to the Newark Youth One Stop. They can either call the phone number or email Miss Armstrong directly, and the email is up here, right here on the screen. So again, my name is Aaliyah Berry. I was your host on tonight. You can continue to follow Seeds and Berries at Facebook, Instagram, myself on LinkedIn. This episode will be on YouTube, on Seeds and Berries YouTube channel. And you continue to see any of my services at www.seedsandberries.com. So now that you've seen the whole episode, definitely like, tag, and share, right? Tag people that you feel would be interested in a conversation like this. Share it so that the message can go far and wide and that we can really, get impact far and wide. So the fact is, though, that everyone does, play a part. Everyone has a lane in the community, right? And so we just need to find our lane. And your lane may not be in the trenches. Your lane may not be the example that she gave where a young person is knocking on your door in the middle of the night with a firearm, right? That may not be your lane, and that's okay. That's okay. But you do have a lane, and we need to find it. And goal setting is a good lane. Anyone around you, you can be goal setting with. So I encourage you to just play your part, and let's kind of let's get to work, right? Call to action. So I will see you next time. Next time is in 2 weeks. So Sidewalk Talk happens every 2 weeks. I will see you on January 16. We're still talking about goal setting, but it's part 2. We're going to be talking to a young person, right? A young person who is a really dope and dynamic community leader. He's a peer-to-peer leader. He's an outreach specialist for an awesome organization here in Newark. And we want to hear from a young person, right? How do they see goal setting? How do they want to be led down the goal setting path? And we're going to talk to him directly, and we're going to have some real talk about goal setting. So thank you. Thank you for everyone's support. Thank you for commenting on tonight. We appreciate the engagement, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Happy New Year.